one day act against America's interests.
I grew up in Kansas, General. About as American as it gets. Look, I'm here to help.
Hello, everybody. This is Nick Gibson from the Phoenix Press, and welcome to this week's episode of the Friday Night Frenzy, where everything is canon, and the topics, they're more like a set of guidelines. Before we bring it in, we do have some commenters wanted to highlight. Geek Activist, Arctic Archivist says afternoon, and then Hardcore Bunny says the boys are here, the boys to entertain you. Well, boys and a girl, but let's just kind of get into this. So, first and certainly least, we have the petty lord himself, Jared. How you doing, man?
How are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. And then next up, we have the queen of ships herself, the one who ranks above Jared. We have Nyx.
I'm above him. Yay.
Literally. How you doing? How you doing, Nyx?
Pretty good.
All right. So Geek says there's always something that I think gets overlooked. People do get a chance to meet certain voice. Yeah. I kind of lost. Not sure what that's about, but yeah. So how's everyone doing today?
Doing pretty well, just hanging out.
And how about yourself, Nyx?
Oh, pretty good. Just kind of playing video games in my off time.
Awesome. So, how about you say we just kind of jump right into the headline, shall we?
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Headline Hysteria, where we talk about the topics that are important enough to talk about, but maybe not big enough for a full show. So first up, we got a pretty big one. Is Power Rangers, is it dead? So I'm going off of some recent news reports. I'm just going to add this here. The Power Rangers series is no longer moving forward next at Netflix. Hasbro to redevelop with a new partner. So obviously, I'm a huge Power Ranger fan. What are your guys' relationship with the franchise?
I mean, I'm kind of a casual when it comes to that.
Nyx, what about you?
I watched the original growing up here and there, and I watched the first movie.
Yeah, honestly, Pierce, like there were some pretty okay stuff in the Disney era. Like I think Charge is pretty good, and from what I hear, Beast Morph. Well, Beast Morph.
We all know you love Megaforce, Nick.
All right, so Jared has been kicked from the show, but yeah, like ever since Hasbro has bought the franchise, it's really been kind of a crap show. Like say what you will about Saban, but at least they tried. They did what? They did what? Oh my god.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we kind of expected that to happen eventually. But like Cosmic Fury, oh my god, was such a crap show. I watched it once and always. The 30th anniversary special. I actually really did enjoy it. Making a show with Netflix is like willingly giving your show. We're not saying that.
Wow.
Knowing hardcore Netflix, hardcore bunny, they would, yeah. And then Parrot Head is like, we all know. You. Hey, Parrot Head. So yeah, like Cosmic Fury was like the end of the series, yet they dangled like, oh, Zordon might still be alive. Hey, look, we got some keys. You know, it's like just for the end of the show. It's such a wet fart. Wait. So you're saying they did the Witcher dirty? I mean, yeah, I make no bones about David. I've actually met him. He was a bit of a jerk, but you know that's a story for another time. But yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen in the franchise because apparently, from what I've said, also, hey, Black Reaper. Apparently, the person who bought Netflix, the Power Rangers for Hasbro, they're either no longer with the company or they passed on. so like Hasbro kind of doesn't really want anything to do with the property. I don't know. And then Power Ranger also has this other problem. So I made this tweet a little bit before we went live, and I feel it's kind of important. The problem with the Power Ranger fan base is it's divided into two camps. You have the MMPR fans, who they have the ones who watched it in the 90s, and to them it ends as Mighty Morphin. Like, they view Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the same way some people view like DuckTales or Batman the Animated Series. It's like, hey, it's that thing from the 90s that started and ended in the 90s. It's part of the 90s canon. And then you actually have Power Ranger fans who are fans of the whole franchise or series beyond it, who dipped in and out. I consider myself the latter. Like, my favorite Power Ranger season is Time Force. I am a Time Force fan. I'm also a fan of RPM. In Space is great. I actually, I don't know how much of a hot take this is. I think Dino Thunder is better than MMPR, but you can roast me for that later. Arms for the guilty.
You mind if I weigh in here for a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
Fun fact about me. Here's a little Jared history for you. I had a period pre my comic book era that I'm currently in where I was into like a lot of different things. It was Star Wars. Then it was also Power Rangers. I binged like a bunch of the series while I was studying in college. And I enjoyed them. I found that I enjoyed the comics more because here's why. The comics were less cheesy than the show, and I get the cheesiness of Power Rangers is part of the charm, and it's not a ding about the show. It's just for what type of storytelling I'm interested in, it was mainly geared more toward the comics. Although I did like, I do agree with you, Nick. Dino Thunder is way better. It's got a better soundtrack. I love the Dino Thunder soundtrack.
They do the well. Okay, don't do my boy Ron Rossman dirty.
I still like it. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying I prefer the Dino Thunder one. Dino Thunder, to me, my like three favorites all came after each other. It was like SPD, Dino Thunder, and
well, fun fact: Ron Rossman actually did the SPD theme.
All right, well there you go. It's a pretty cool one.
But yeah, I do prefer the kind of more serious seasons. Like, for example, did you know that there's an episode of Power Rangers Lost Galaxy where the Power Rangers dies?
Yeah. Yes, I watched that one. And then didn't they replace her with like someone originally evil, if you will?
Yes. So Kendricks, or AKA Astronema, was the villain of the previous season in Space, and then she brought back.
They say what you want about Megaforce. At the end, they reference that when all the Rangers show up in like an endgame style battle. She goes, "I love being a Power Ranger." She lifts, her head morphs, and then morphs back into the human. They puts the helmet back on.
So, I can't even really pronounce his name, but he's a regular commenter on my stuff. Shout out. It says part of the issue stems from the network switches. I actually do think that's actually also a big factor.
Yeah.
So originally, Power Rangers was on Fox Kids, and then it went to Disney. It was like on one Saturday morning, the JetX stuff, and then it went on to Nickelodeon. I think Nickelodeon did a lot of damage to Power Rangers because they split into like the regular season, then the super season, and not only that, but like, oh, we're gonna do 10-episode blocks. It's a 40-episode season split into 4 parts. The shows were never able to get any momentum. And then, like Dave said, with you also have the Super Sentai category, which I think my friend Forrester really kind of does and says. And you have a third category, those that jump ship for Toei properties after the rise of fan subbing, because fan subbing really took off in the late 2000s. Like, actually, that's kind of when I really got into Sentai and Power Rangers. Was like 2008, 2009, 2010, that era. And so you have people who they discovered Super Sentai and they never returned.
Well, yeah, and then here's the thing on the network changes. You know what that's similar to? It's similar to like with Warner Brothers managing DC and how they kept like how like the people in charge kept changing. So it was like, okay, so now you have a different storytelling approach. Then all of a sudden you're gonna change that all of a sudden. At least keep it consistent.
Yeah, consistency is a big thing. Like, but the problem is Power Rangers is kind of a brand where it's being pulled in many different places. You have like there's so many different camps that want that they view Power Rangers separately. There are the MMPR people who think, oh, if it's not MMPR, oh yeah, like I actually use a lot of TV Nihon myself. You can actually kind of see it here, or I say rest in peace. But yeah, it's actually kind of harder to get a hold of subs now than it was like 5-10 years ago, because Toei's been doing a lot of stuff. And then Dave says, then it became a gateway to stuff like Kamen Rider. Actually, yes, Dave, I'm a huge Kamen Rider fan myself. I need to do more like love for Kamen Rider stuff. Grid and Skull, they're the Power Rangers. Well, that's certainly an opinion. But yeah, like Nickelodeon did a lot of damage to the brand, and it's just like the comics, I think, did a great job kind of repairing some of the love, because the comics had like really good events and whatnot.
I mean, again, it's kind of funny. The comics did Injustice better than Injustice. Suck it, Tom.
Oh
Taylor.
yeah, Lord Draken.
Yeah, exactly. That was a way better version of Injustice.
I would agree, and then that led to Shattered Grid, which is kind of like the defining like run of Power Rangers and whatnot. But now even the comics are kind of in this weird place where like they can only go so far, and then they reset. They're kind of like DBZ in the '90s or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a deep cut for you.
And let's not forget the time Power Rangers crossed over with arguably the worst, second, third worst version of Ninja Turtles.
What?
Anymore, but
what, you don't like a turtle with boobs?
no, thank you.
I will say the comics did that way better too. You know why? The turtles actually morphed.
Oh.
That was, and they got their own Megazord. This is my one complaint. One with the Justice League Power Rangers crossover. I just have one. It's that I feel like they should have gotten the Justice League more involved with Zords. I think that would have been. They have that in Dark Knight's Metal. They have a Megazord.
Wait. We all know what Batman's Zord is going to be. It's going to be the Batplane.
It's going to be the Batplane. Yeah, he'll go, oh, I had all these upgrades that came to me in a dream.
I mean, he literally pilots a Megazord.
Oh, dude.
In Godzilla vs. King Kong.
Nick, I got it. Here's what the Power Ranger Zord actually is. So you know the Astro Mega ship from in space, right? It's gonna be the entire watchtower.
That's
kind of along the lines of that, and like the STD headquarters.
No, that's not a space station. It's a transformer.
She's gone from suck to blow.
Oh my god.
I love that movie.
But yeah, honestly, I think the only thing that can save Power Rangers is for another company to buy it. Watch the Braun brand buy it back for a third time. The only worst version of TMNT was Rise, and then maybe the new Seth Rogen movie.
Yes.
I enjoyed the Seth Rogen movie.
But yeah, so yeah, I think someone's probably going to buy the rights to Power at this point, because Hasbro clearly has no desire to use it. I don't know. Like, there's something that can be done, but let's kind of move on to the next one. So, all right, we're going to do our final update on 2100 Samurai. All right? I stopped the thing. I should not have done that. All right. Yeah, the sequel certainly did. All right, so Torn Samurai, the campaign is over, and we managed to raise $1,035, leaving us with a final tally of 69%.
Nice.
You could tell I was scrolling up.
You were waiting for that, dude.
Yeah, you could tell I was trying to scroll up the clip because the way I was like pausing and whatnot. Oh god, yeah. So obviously we didn't make it, okay? But we're still doing the books. The money is actually on my way to the account right now. I've had conversation with Critical Blast. We should be going to print sometime next week. The book is completely done, 100% finished. It's all finished. It's all good. So that's pretty awesome. And then Dave the Impaler says the 2017 movie was pretty good and took the franchise in a more serious, mature direction that could have appealed more to adults. Yeah, kind of going back to the Power thing real quick. I actually really agree with that. I mean, the film is basically an hour and a half. What's his name? It's an hour and a half John Hughes knockoff with a half-hour Power Ranger episode tacked on the end, but it kind of perfectly set the board for another Power Ranger movie. So I do think it's kind of a disappointment. But getting back to Torn Samurai, so issue 4 is coming. Those who ordered it will get their books here in the next few months. That is coming. Jared, as a person who has read the preview edition, what is your preliminary review of issue 4?
It's really good. You guys are really in for a treat.
Yeesh. And so as far as what else you have to look forward to, Screecher number 3 is coming in October. We've already started working on it. And then in August, I'll be doing my book, Lost Kingdom. So we start promo for that in July. But for right now, thank you, everybody. I'll let you know when things go to print and whatnot. But so sadly, for our last headline, we need to say goodbye. And Jared, you're on, buddy.
Yeah, so we lost Comic Storian, and again, I'll be going into more detail on the stream, but yeah, the thing about Benny is, and granted, I only knew him for like a couple of days, but the thing that you immediately picked up on about Comic Storian is that, see, he was one of the very, very, very few things that united all of comic book fandom. Like, literally everyone loves this guy, as they should. And it's one of those things where I was stunned when I found out about it. I was actually in the middle of my workout, and I just sat there for an hour as soon as I found out. And I didn't know how to process this news. It was like the most unexpected thing. Particularly considering the fact that I just talked to him.
Like, how long ago did you talk to him?
Exactly 7 days from when we got the notification.
Wow.
And the thing about it...
Pierce asked a good question. So Jared, if you had to describe his work in a few sentences, how would you put it?
He brought comic books to people that didn't have access to comic books, because one of the most common things that I ever heard when I was going through people's experiences with Benny is that some people couldn't afford comic books, and they couldn't afford to keep up with everything that was going on Marvel or DC. So they would just pop in his stuff because he did the full-on dramatic readings and recaps and everything. And you know what? That's how people got their comics. And you know what? Well done. And actually, what's kind of interesting is your boy Zach did a video about Benny, and he said that Comic Storian did more for comic books than Comicsgate ever did.
Yeah. And they kind of speak on the uniting. His death is one of the rare instances where all sides came together in mourning. You had
DC themselves did it.
I mean, look at this. This is NBC News. This is why I picked this link. NBC News.
And Dave, yeah, here's a preview of my story. When I first got into comics, again, this was 4 years after Rebirth. As Nick and I know, and Nick and I know very well, a lot happens in comics in 4 years. So I was I was very intimidated. So I would marathon his stuff and Comic Explained to get prepared for when I eventually launched my channel and all that. And the last thing I will say about Benny is that even though here's how much of a great guy this guy was. Even though I knew him for like max, I'd say about a week or so, he treated me as if he had known me for like 10 years.
Yeah. Dix, is there anything you'd like to say?
Just that I've been watching his content for quite a few years now, and I was in genuine shock when the news was announced, and I just want to say to his family my deepest condolences. From his videos, he seemed like a genuinely great guy, and I'm very sure his loss will be felt for a very long time.
I don't know about that comparison nowadays because Chris Stuckman's kind of his stock's kind of gone down a little bit, but maybe yeah. But I mean, honestly, if anyone deserves the title of Mr. Rogers of comics, it's Comic Story.
Yep.
Yeah.
Him and Stan Lee, if you will. In a way,
I would not give it to Stanley. I'm sorry.
In that time period, I still argue on that.
He did some really.
I understand that, Nick.
But so as for myself, I only passively engage with his content. I watched a lot of his Power Ranger videos, like the recap stuff. A lot of my knowledge of the Power Ranger comics actually comes from him, and I owe a lot to him. And you know, I just want to say, his loss is our loss. I mean, this is a blow to the community, and he will be missed. I mean, exactly. Like, how cool is it? This guy had 3 million.
He's the largest comic book YouTuber on YouTube,
and it's like it's not like he had you on his channel. No, that would be too easy. He came onto your channel twice. Okay.
And the thing is, I obviously I do what I always do with guests. I invited him on again, and then he said, "Yeah, man, just hit me up anytime."
Like, you are nothing to him. You're just a speck. Like, he loses your subscriber count. He loses that in a day, and then gains like 5 times, or he did, or whatever. But the fact that like he came to you, and he treated you like an equal, like that says so much about his character.
Mm-hmm.
So, rest in peace, Comicstorian. You were a true hero.
I'm going to say this. Whenever people come at me about Super Wonder stuff, I always say that like these were fictional characters. But this is the one occasion where I am wrong, and that Superman was real, and his name was Benny Potter.
I agree. I definitely agree.
Of course!
Yeah, there you go. That works.
So, speaking of heroes, I totally didn't word it that way to give myself a segue. Let's talk about our main topic, which is, what is a hero? Why do we need heroes? Why do we focus on them?
And they say that a hero could save us. I missed that.
We're 24 minutes in. I can get away with it.
All right, there you go. That works. That works.
But yeah. So basically, the purpose of this is to kind of talk about. I wouldn't even say it's like Western world's obsession, because like every culture has an obsession with heroes.
Going back to like the Greek times as well.
Yes, whether it was Leonidas kicking the Macedonian off, screaming, "This is Sparta."
Persian. There is Persian.
Whatever. Historical revisionism. I'm the director now.
Get your facts right, Nick.
This is Disney, baby. I am the facts. Oh, Bianca.
Thank you.
Bianca, do you want to come on this stream and tell us all we're nerds? I will send you the link if you want. So we're going to kind of start by going off and kind of telling what heroes mean to us and like why we think they're so important, we're gonna let the lady go first because we're gentlemen. We are heroes. We let the lady go first. So Nix, please tell us.
All right, whatever you want to tell yourself to sleep at night.
Oh, the Nick's villain arc has begun.
Nick, you know what this is, Nick? This is payback for your crappy Sonic Adventure 2 playthrough. She's finally turning into the Joker.
That's quite the punchline.
Oh God. I don't know. I think it's kind of funny. My relationship with heroes has kind of evolved the older I've gotten. It used to be I just liked Batman because he was the cool hero.
Mm-hmm.
But as I've gotten older, I've come to appreciate Superman more and more to the point where I'd say he's probably top 2 of my favorite superheroes at least. But I've really started in my later years to kind of gravitate towards more traditional, right is right, wrong is wrong sort of heroes because we get enough of that morally gray downer crap in everything that I'm sick of it.
So you're saying what we need is a little old-fashioned?
I just want my heroes to be good, honest people, the kind of people that we as humans should aspire to be. And that to me is what heroes like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and all that are. They're the beacons that we aspire to.
Jared.
I am paying attention.
Oh, Bianca's calling you out. So Jared. Oh, sorry, Nick, finish, please.
I was going to say it actually started because an animated Superman movie I watched once when I was a bit younger.
Which one?
Do you have any idea how little that was?
It's not Doomsday. It's not Doomsday, is it?
No, it's the one where he's dying.
All-Star.
You have any idea how little that narrows it down?
He dies a lot. That's the thing.
All-Star
Superman dies every 5th Friday. Remember?
I don't know. There was something about it, and I'll admit now, after having read the comics do quite a bit more better. But there is a lot that the movie does better too, and I especially like Lex's speech at the end about how Superman sees the world. And I don't know, something about, the kind of person that Clark is typically written to be, in the hands of a good writer. It inspires me to be better, to be kinder.
Yeah, I can see that. So, Jared, what do you want to say? Because you got to follow that up. You got to follow that up. So, hope you're ready.
Yes, I am. Well, the thing about that is that I'm with Nix in that at first I was primarily only a Batman guy because he was the cool dude. He was the cool, dark, brooding dude that like could take out any superhero.
Hardcore Bun is coming up, by the way.
Yeah, but as soon as because I thought Superman was kind of dweeb, almost as dweeby as Nick, but he has to be much more ancient in order to be that dweeby. But the thing is. Oh, drink it,
everyone. Chill.
Oh, drink your prune juice. But so then I didn't really get like that into Superman until the new 52 and surprising no one, Man of Steel. So because it was like it broke down Superman to the point where it's like beyond the like superficial look of the dude in the cape that like saves people. It's like, no, you understand on a fundamental level who this character is and what he brings to the universe, to the point where once I had that other understanding, I went back and I read classic Superman because it's like, okay, so now I can appreciate this more. And it led to a significant explosion of all the characters I like Hal Jordan, because the thing about Hal Jordan, a lot of people, because my co-host Britt, I'm working on getting her into a Green Lantern fan. I'm succeeding. But she used to see him as like the way a lot of people used to see Tony Stark, as like a womanizer, maybe not as much as the drunk guy. But I told her, okay, the thing about Hal Jordan is that that's not really who he is. The thing about Hal Jordan is that he's constantly.
Oh, Bianca is.
In terms of sales, I'm correct, Bianca. But anyway, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Wonder Bat created by the dude that thought Batman and Batgirl was a good idea?
I really wish you were on the stream tonight, Bianca. But
anyway, so when you look at Hal Jordan, and Jessica Cruz is actually a better example of this. When you look at Jessica Cruz, her whole thing is overcoming fear. The thing is, her ring, you have to have the ability to overcome great fear. And there was this fantastic moment in her, because in Rebirth, this is one of the few good Rebirth books, when she got a solo series with Simon Baz, and she's like, I'm supposed to be the superhero that can overcome all this great fear, but I'm too afraid to leave my house. But I'm like, that's how you give pathos. Sales. By the way, post-crisis almost bankrupted DC. Suck it.
Post-crisis lasted for like 25 years, bro.
But they were gonna get shut down. That's why they went with the drastic.
Post-crisis lasted for 25 years. You can't say it almost killed it when it lasted 25 years.
No, it did. It's actual insiders in the company have said it almost killed it. It didn't make the ship. It still showed up in his show, and if he was as authoritarian of the show that people say he was, he could have said no. So yeah, I do blame him. But my point is, when you look at like characters like Hal Jordan, his whole thing is overcoming fear, because you have to have the will to survive, the will to push on. And that's the thing. And like New Frontier does a fantastic job portraying Hal Jordan, because basically like he's like he was seen as a coward because he wouldn't kill, because and obviously being a soldier and all that stuff. But he said, no, I'm not going to kill just for just for legit any cause. I'm going to kill only if it's for my own survival, or like the survival of the planet. And he did that. And there you go. Yeah.
Dave, thank you so freaking much. Yes. Yeah,
until it almost led to DC being shut.
I don't know what happened. Jared just somehow left.
I'm just listing facts. But anyway, where was I? The point is, see, this is what annoys me when people say that like comic books are for kids. It's and by the way, I was saying New Frontier lost you, Black Reaper Kai. Read the book. Anyway,
the Knicks.
But the thing, that's what
Knicks.
Like, anyone that makes fun of anyone that makes fun of superheroes saying they're for kids is just superficial, because they're not looking beyond them. I mean, for the longest time, my parents were like, "You sure you really want to be reading comic books?" Because they only showed them, saw them as picture books. However, when you it's like when you actually look into it, it's like, oh, I see.
Well, the problem is, the 80s, I kind of refer to it as comic books awkward teenage years. So you know how when you're a teenager, you're so desperate to be seen as an adult. You're like, oh, if I curse, if I smoke, if I start banging hot chicks. The 80s and the 90s are kind of teenage, like comic book awkward teenage years. It didn't really grow up until the late 90s. That's when they kind of mature to be like, you know what? We don't need to curse. We don't need the blood, guts, and gore. We just tell good stories.
And they were right.
Mm-hmm. I mean, are they literally on fire? Are they burning down the house? Because if they're not on fire, then they're not pretty fire.
Watchmen caused a bad trend in comics to a degree, because here's the thing about DC with Watchmen.
I'd argue Dark Knight Returns did more damage than Watchmen.
Yeah, that's true. But here's in that era. Let's go off of like the release era of those books. The problem with DC is that if something works, like if anything is like is like sells well, let's say like Dark Knight Returns or Watchmen, they take that and apply it to the entire line. Although here's the thing, with Dark Knight Returns, arguably it helped Batman at least because
I would argue in the long run it has hurt Batman because Dark Knight Returns. Okay, go ahead.
Where was I? The point is, it's like DC took DC assumed, okay, so Watchmen works. That means we should apply Watchmen to everything. And I'm like, no. It works because it was divorced from DC continuity. If you try, because Alan Moore originally wanted to do Watchmen with the Justice League, but DC was like, no. When you apply the principles of Watchmen to that Empire, I disagree that Dark Knight Returns caused more damage to Batman because if it weren't for Dark Knight Returns, you wouldn't have gotten the Michael Keaton Batman movie.
That's what I'm saying in the long run. See, Dark Knight Returns kind of started a domino effect because without Dark Knight Returns, you wouldn't have gotten the Michael Keaton Batman movie. Without the Michael Keaton Batman movie, you wouldn't have had the early 90s, oh, dark, edgy is good. It basically... You had Dark Knight
Batman
Returns,
can kick anyone's butt.
Also, Killing Joke is also a part of this kind of whole quagmire. I don't really put Watchmen in it because Watchmen wasn't mainstream successful. Dark Knight Returns was mainstream successful. Watchmen it still is a curiosity. Like, I'm sorry, as successful as Watchmen is, it has always been a curiosity.
And by myself in comics, yeah, he wrote that episode, but that was the episode where Batman says, "It's not happening, stop it." And we covered this, Nick.
And see, Mask of the Phantasm is probably the and this is going to be a hot take. Is probably the most mature Batman movie we have ever gotten, animated or live action.
Yeah.
Like the themes it deals with, like the emotions. Mask of the Phantasm is more mature than all the Nolan films combined.
Well, here's the thing. According to people, it's their favorite Batman movie, period. Ignoring animation or live action.
Yeah. Like that scene where he's at his parents' grave and he's debating whether or not to be Batman. And I love how when Andrea leaves him, and that's when he decides to fully commit Batman. And the first time he puts on the hood, you see Alfred go or recoil in fear. Like, that's some powerful stuff. But
that moment at his parents' grave where he's like, "I didn't plan on being happy." Oh,
the way that Kevin Conroy delivers it. So for my section, I wanted to read a speech. Okay, and yes, Bianca, Mask of Phantasm is perfection. So speaking of another movie that is perfection, I'm sorry, Spider-Man 2 is perfect. Don't anyone who says otherwise is wrong.
I say otherwise. I'm only kidding.
Psychologically mature, but I'm sorry, the Penguin really does bring down.
I'm sorry. No, yeah.
They were trying to go in two very different directions with the Penguin, and it shows so much.
Yeah. So this is a speech from Spider-Man 2 from Aunt May. You guys already know where I'm going with this, but I think this speech basically kind of like puts my feelings in a nutshell. I would play the clip, but we'd get copyrighted. Screw you, Sony. So I'm just going to read it. He knows a hero when he sees one. Too few characters out there flying around like that, saving our old girls like me. And Lord knows, kids like Henry need a hero. Courageous, self-sacrificing people setting examples for all of us. Everybody needs a hero. People line up for them, cheer them, scream their names. And years later, they'll tell how they stood in the rain for hours just to get a glimpse of the one who taught them to hold on just a second longer. I believe there's a hero in all of us. Keeps us honest, gives us strength, makes us noble, and finally allows us to die with pride, even though sometimes we have to be steady and give up the things we want the most, even our dreams. Spider-Man did that for Henry, and wonders where he's gone. He needs him. Cheetos.
You're not Superman, you know.
Liar!
Kind of funny that we got that line in a Spider-Man movie.
I know, right?
That was so crazy.
Do you know what's the more heartbreaking part? When when like Aunt May is supposedly moving because she can't afford the house. She goes, "Hey, where are all my comic books? Oh, those horrible things, I threw those away." And I'm like, "You could have sold those and made the money." I'm like, "What?"
Well, to be fair, given the time period of film, they're probably all not like early '90s comics. Like he was like,
"You don't know that, dude. He could have inherited. Who knows?"
Oh God. Oh, sorry. I guess there was like that whole conversation, but yeah. So, why do you think people at large have this obsession with like heroes? Yeah, those early Spider-Man films, like they are very intrinsically related to 9/11. Like the scene, like, oh, this is New York. You mess with one of us. You mess with like that scene was actually a direct response to 9/11.
It's
Like,
it's
that
very
was-
heavy-handed.
Very.
But can I
different
just
vibe.
say, I don't care. I love that scene.
Oh, did you hear that Tom King is writing a 9/11 era comic for DC?
No.
Well, considering he's former CIA, and if the conspiracy theories have any mark, oh, the stream's down.
You know what I mean? It's so he's playing. It's you know who Janie Sparks is of The Authority. He's writing a story about what if she were around during 9/11, and I'm like, ugh.
Oh God.
Why won't you stop getting work?
Who keeps hiring this man?
Yeah, like Jared, have you read the Spider-Man 9/11 comic?
No, I haven't. I want to.
I've read parts of it. It's kind of more the writers grieving and coming to terms with it than an actual story, but still.
Oh yeah, and wasn't that the one where like even Doctor Doom is there and he's like crying? But I'm like, a lot of the villains that show up to help and are like, I can't believe, look at all this wanton destruction. You've done this to New York City before.
I could see
Done
Kingpin
worse.
caring. I could see the Kingpin.
yes, but Magneto, you launch nukes at the world, bro.
Depends on the timeline.
No, but all of this is canon. Remember, in Marvel, everything's canon.
Oh God, this was before everything was canon, though.
No, it wasn't. They always have the sliding time scale. So, and remember, the first time the X-Men fought Magneto, he launched nukes. I'm just saying, I appreciate the gestures that when you look at it, when you actually think about it, I'm like, why is he here, though?
I mean, you got to realize that book was literally made weeks after 9/11. So
Yeah.
the emotions are very raw in that book. It's kind of an interesting time capsule.
At the very least, don't use Magneto, though.
But his magnetism can bend steel girders.
Mm-hmm.
I love how Jared's like, I know what he's saying. I'm just going to ignore it.
I'm not advancing this conversation.
All right, why am I here? But yeah, this will go down about as well as that proposed sitcom about like what?
What?
That actually happened?
There's a wait. That was
What?
actually proposed.
What?
Who the hell proposed that?
Someone who was a little too enthusiastic with the nose candy.
No. Not only was it proposed, a producer thought it was a good enough idea to move
God.
forward. The fact that we're hearing about it means it was produced enough. It's like several people thought this was a good idea. What the fuck?
Holy.
Oh god. So heroes. But yeah, like you look throughout history, there's always different stories of the heroes, like Leonidas, Jared's favorite, Homer.
Homer Simpson?
Yes. Greatest hero
Oh,
of all
that
time.
reminds me. So I remember one time I was like, this is like decades ago. They had this whole entire like section of it was a Jeopardy section about Homer, and each clue was read by Dan Castanella in his Homer voice. It's kind of funny. But yeah, Iliad, the Odyssey. It's literally one of the oldest novels, and it's basically essentially a comic book story.
Nick was around when it was first released.
I'm even mentioned in there.
Yeah, it's when they bring up an ancient being.
Bianca, are you saying you're Medusa?
Well, that's concerning. Remind me never to look you in the eye, then.
Yeah, unless you want to get stoned.
Or if I have a shield, I can do that.
Or like a mirror or something, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Get a mirror shield. I hear they're pretty good.
And it helps Link. Bianca's like, so what are some of you guys' favorite historical hero stuff, whatnot?
Jason the Argonauts.
Sunglasses, maybe.
Yeah, do sunglasses work? They never really answer that.
I know by Percy Jackson logic, it prevents Medusa from other people.
I know in the movie that was very accurate. That was very enjoyable.
So this is why it's hard to find windmills nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. I know that in the Percy Jackson movie, he used his iPod. He looked at her in the reflection of the iPod. Those fun movies.
Oh god, there's so many of those like little kind of things. Nix, what are some of your favorite like classical heroes?
I'd just go for the obvious and say Heracles. Because I am historically accurate.
Yes,
Heracles.
But no, he ends up killing his wife down the line, so.
Oh no!
No.
And by the way, Dave, obviously we're not talking about Thor under a certain Taika Waititi.
You've lost that love and thunder. Oh.
On that note, I gotta run. It was a pleasure being on the show, Nick.
Oh, come on, Jared. Come on.
I actually do have to run. But anyway, I'll see you guys later.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
All right. Now that Jared's gone, Wonder Bat's officially canon again. Wonder Bat's in the chat. But no. The cops on it. Yeah, like Zack Snyder's like take on it would be interesting. And then the Bianca's like, bye, Jared. Thank you, Dave. You do not disappoint, sir. But yeah, I think when it comes to heroes, it's an aspirational thing. You know, people look at a hero for what to do, like who to be. You know,
Yeah.
Like we look at Superman, we see him being jacked. Like how many people get like shredded because I want to look like Superman. I want to do the Batman workout, you know, or like how many people took up archery?
Yeah.
Bianca, I think that's speculative. I don't think he's actually doing anything with Thor, but it would be kind of interesting. Like how many people have taken up archery because of Green Arrow? I know that I kind of want to. I mean, that's literally the plot of Hawkeye. You know, that kind of thing. I do feel like we're kind of in an era now where, like Nick's, like you said, the gray morality is a bit played out because these things kind of go in cycles.
A bit. Oh my god, it's just nonstop.
Yeah, I do think and I think COVID kind of accelerated this.
Yeah.
Where people just want good tales of good and evil. They want simple things. And mass media is not like mass media. It's still kind of in the we want the gray sludge morality, where also
everyone's evil in some way or another. There's
I just wanna
darkness in all of us, man.
I just want to push back on like the whole gray morality is bad. Too many people, they see gray morality as like, oh, everything sucks. To me, gray morality is nuance. Okay. You know, like, to me, gray morality is, oh, you have this woman stealing from a convenience store. Why is she stealing? Because she has no money. She needs to feed her kids. Like, do you chop her hands off? Or do you maybe buy her the food? You know, like, it's kind of those moral questions that I actually like to get into. Not like, oh, everyone sucks, all your heroes are bad, your little boys, gray morality. For me, it's the nuance. It's the questions that you got to ask yourself of, like, is doing the quote-unquote right thing the right thing to do? Like, that's kind of the problem that I have with, like, the black and white thing, is you get into what D&D terms is considered lawfully stupid. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where it's like, you know, it's just like, I don't know. I think there's a time and a place for everything, but I do recognize a lot of people's desire and their need for that kind of yes. So I open us up to the chat to you guys. Like, any questions you got for me? Do you want to get back on the Pounder topic? So let's just kind of do like a little bit of a Q&A thing here. Like, anything you want my thoughts on, any opinion pieces. Nothing is off the table. But I'm just going to answer this question right now. Yes, Nyx is awesome. But Nyx, is there anything you want? Oh,
I have a story of heroism, actually, that I talked a little bit about on Twitter the other day.
Go right ahead.
So this is this kind of a funny story, but I'm going to preface this by saying first, when my younger cousin was about two or three, maybe, she fell into a neighbor's pool while her older brother was being attended to after he had conked his head on some concrete.
Okay.
None of the adults were watching her, and she wasn't wearing her floaties. I was the only one who was actually paying attention to the pool, and she jumped in and started to drown. I tried to get an adult's attention. I was barely a teenager back then. And nobody was paying attention, so I had to jump in after her, and I had some issues with swimming, that I wasn't very good or confident swimmer, and I didn't like going underwater. But I had to basically dive in after her and carry her back to the shallow end and get her up out of the water. And that's the first time I saved a life. That's my...
That's for you, Nyx. That is for you.
The second time, and I only found out about it recently, was that about 2 or 3 years ago, I found one of that cousin, the one who conked his head on the concrete's friends, out on my porch sobbing. She was just a little bit younger than him, not by much. And all of her friends, a lot of whom were big drug users, were in the room that is now my grandfather's room.
Mhm.
So basically, like our laundry room. But we were letting a couple of his friends live with us, because they had nowhere to go. They seemed like decent enough kids. One of them, I later found out, was a very big drug user and been kicked out by his family because of that, and because he'd been doing his drugs in front of his younger brother. So, not great kids. One of them, I've learned uh, actually has like an actual decent job now and is a contributing member of society.
Well,
The
that's
other
good.
one, not doing so great, but that's neither here nor there. But this girl I found on my porch sobbing, like hysterically, and I asked her friends who were hanging out in the room, like, what's going on? Why is she crying? Why aren't any of you out there comforting her? Like, what the hell? It's not a very good friend thing to do, right?
Yeah.
And they tried to tell me basically that she's just a big old druggie. She's just doing this for attention. Blah 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 blah.
Oh,
And I was like,
real quick, Nix. Thank you for joining us, Bianca. We enjoyed the spice. And have a good time at work.
like,
Bye.
but yeah. So I went out and I talked to her for a little bit, and she was not doing very good. She was very depressed, and and I don't want to say this word too often because YouTube does not like it. She was, I think, very suicidal at the time. But I went out and I comforted her, and we talked for a few hours. And then I never saw her again until maybe a night or two ago. Maybe 3 nights ago. I can't remember exactly how long it was now, but she was visiting my mother because somehow.
Bianca's calling you out.
Didn't say funny, but
It's funny because it's funny sad.
It's more like of kind of funny in hindsight because I didn't realize exactly what I was getting into at the time.
Please continue.
But and she came to me as she was leaving, and she's like, "You don't remember me, do you?" And I was like, "No." Should I? And I felt kind of bad. She said, like 3 or 4 years ago, I was on your porch crying, and you came out and you comforted me. She said, I was going through a lot, and honestly, I think you saved my life. So thank you.
Yeah, it's you never really know who you inspire, really.
Exactly. And I found out later from my mother, so I'm taking this with a huge grain of salt, but she had been her stepfather had been quite inappropriate with her, and her mother was kicking her out because she was charging him for it. And I also found out that he only got 2 years and probation for his crimes. Her mother still to this day apparently does not talk to her, but she seems to be in a much better place now, and I'm so grateful that she is.
That's good. So Harker Bunny, someone saved your life tonight. Please, I got to hear about that. So let's kind of scroll up. Let's see here. So, Bianca asks, "Why do you suck? Why do I suck? Why do we all suck?" That is a excellent question, my friend. Nix, why do you think Bianca sucks?
I don't know. I don't know her.
It's an Elton John song. Due to the state of society in the modern world, I think we all have to talk friends out of self-deletion, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So you're saying, I wish you would step back from that ledge, my friend? I will understand. I'm doing it that way because I don't want to trigger the bots, but and then let me just switch this over real quick because of stuff. All right. Hello there.
Hello, troublemaker.
So we have a new challenger. Jared went away, so I could brought in the woman who rides eagles. So we're talking about heroes. We're doing a Q&A session. So, Rose, what do heroes mean to you, and why do you think we as a people have a section with them?
I mean, I think there's two things that you can define as the heroes. One is, of course, the standard most everyone knows, self-sacrificing, going out and risking life and limb or fighting villains and stuff. The military-esque style hero is kind of easy to understand and talk about for most people. I think the other side note of that I believe is heroic is those who face extreme medical, mental, emotional traumas and still are stand-up people, take care of families, refuse to become what's hurt them, all that I think is also a form of heroic behavior. I think my dad doing everything he did for decades with severe muscular dystrophy and still fighting to keep himself strong so he could take care of his family was heroic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the reason why it's so important to all of us to have heroic people, to have heroic icons, to have larger than life heroes to look up to, is also because all of us, no matter how cynical we are, have some part of us that craves belief that there's good out there, not just the cynical view of humanity, not just the bad.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's like behind every atheist is a piss off Christian. And I just triggered so many people with that comment.
Most atheists, I would agree. I think some genuinely struggle with the concept of something beyond them. But a lot of them are people who got jaded by things that were wrong in the church they went to, or Christian parents who did not live up to the ideal, or other stuff. There's actually a quote at the beginning of one of the songs from DC Talk that references that very viewpoint. It says, the greatest cause of atheism in the world today is Christians who acknowledge things with their lips and then get on and go by their lifestyles.
See, okay. I didn't mean for this to become an atheism talk, but if you're an atheist and you just live your life, I don't care. It's the cringy ones. It's the cringy ones that I can't abide by. And that's the end of that discussion. That is the end of that discussion.
And I'm fine. I get that. The reason I only brought that up to that was that quote literally is an artistic way of saying basically what you said. And it actually comes from a song that was in the 90s.
Yeah, I just think a lot of the reason why we see like the cynicism, like the stuff with the boys, is kind of just people have been let down and disappointed. You know, when your entire life has been black sludge, that's all you're capable of seeing. And then Dave says, glory, strength, cleverness, endurance, and conquest are what define traditional heroes.
I would differ on saying conquest. While some cultures found that heroic, many did not, even in the old days.
Well, I can tell you right now.
The glory and strength, the warrior, I would absolutely agree, but conquest, I would not. There's a lot of cultures that actually found conquesting against smaller.
Well, I can tell you it's pretty easy.
Wrong.
It's pretty easy to figure out the ones who didn't see it as a moral virtue. The ones who were conquered certainly didn't think that was a moral virtue. No, it's not
just that. There's even warrior tribes who they didn't feel trying to take from others by force was heroic. Didn't mean they didn't love to fight. Didn't mean they wouldn't fight over everything. They just didn't find that part of the heroicism of their honor code. So there's differentials in that. There's definitely morality and justice as being heroic goes back in many cultures for thousands of years, including Christian. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's a new construct. I think it becoming the forefront of most people's view is a little more new.
Yeah, I think you also kind of hit upon a bit of a vein there, like a gold mine of living by a code. I definitely think that is kind of a key defining factor of someone who is heroic. Not a hero, but someone who is a heroic. Because if you look at like lots of storytellings, you know, like the anti-hero, like
they don't follow rules. They don't
The
care as much.
like, take
They're more willing to kill.
Punisher. Like, he's a bad guy who kills bad people.
Deadpool.
You know? Exactly.
Same
and
thing.
I also think I think a lot of people are attracted to characters that have a bit of a moralistic code of honor. I think that's why the West is so fascinated with samurais. I know I get flack for this, but there is a parallel between chivalrous knights and samurais that live by Bushido. There is overlap there.
So funny that you mentioned both of them, because when you said living by a code, the first thing that popped in my head was Dragonheart, where he's calling him Knight of the Old Code.
And then Dave says, it's just a matter of logic. As long as you don't believe in a particular religion, it's default statement, you know. It's a little more nuanced than that, but you're pretty much right on the money, Dave.
Actually, that's what atheism is defined as by people who are trying to explain it, but that's not what they've actually made it into. That
so
is
you're saying it's like the
what,
definition of feminism?
No, because feminism, the definition literally means female over male, if you break it down in the Latin.
Well,
what I was saying with atheism is,
they
well,
love
that's
to point out the other one, but yeah.
Please let me finish my point.
All right, go ahead.
What I was saying with the other is, while they try to define atheism and that is what the root of the word means, the atheist movement has been largely based in a lot of Nietzschean ideals, and they are not hardcore, I just don't know. They're hardcore God is dead as more of a viewpoint, or basically anti-religion. The true people who define themselves as I really just don't know, I have trouble believing what I haven't seen and witnessed, is agnostic. Just a differential.
Yep, I'm trying to get off this topic. That's when I think I was out. They pulled me back in. But, my God, Atheism Plus, we're not talking about that. We are not talking about that cringe fest. Because modern social justice was born out of atheism.
Screw all that.
Like the modern SAW movement was born out of that. And that's all we're talking about.
I'm trying to go back to the other topic.
Okay.
When you talked about the honor codes and stuff like that, I remember I come from a very warrior tribe, but we had a really strict honor code. There's parts, some of the stuff that was Klingon came from his interactions with the tribe. He even has that in his writings because there's such a strict honor code, and things that would get you in trouble with my tribe thousands of years ago even were, let's say, attacking an unarmed enemy, harming an enemy in their sleep, going after the women and children, were considered villainous, treasonous acts against the tribe. Your honor came, things that were honorable, fighting an enemy who was bigger and braver and had more ability to take you on, touching an enemy in his sleep and leaving him unscathed. Things like that were considered honorable because it showed that you were not just forcing yourself on others, but being brave.
Yeah, that's where the concept of like a clean kill or a dishonorable kill, like that's where those concepts come from, where there are ways to kill a man in a honorable or dishonorable way.
Keep your scalp standard free. Get scalped by me. I mean,
also, Nyx apparently she's going to her family. So anything you want to say before we go?
Hello. Bye-bye.
Nice to see you briefly.
Nice seeing everyone.
Yeah,
nice
bye.
seeing you all. Bye.
Bye.
I hope we didn't scare her off.
Well, again, Dave, that's why I said it really depends, because there's no uniform code of honor that's existed in every culture. There's a few things that played on in most cultures, but there's never been a universal. And you see people make comments about this is Western, this is European, this is Eastern, this is Native and stuff. That's not true of any of those, because there's no place in the world where all the tribes and all the cultures of a race all have the same viewpoints and ideals. We just don't do that. There's hundreds of recognized tribes now. There were over 1,200 tribes known during the early settler days. We're not all going to share the same belief. There were hundreds and over 1,000 of different tribes throughout Europe. Same thing. Look at the differences from Druid through Germanic through Norwegian, French, and stuff, and the cultures are extremely different. The religion, the viewpoints, the ideals are extremely different.
Well, the problem is people will always find a way to divide themselves. Like in the 50s, it was, oh, you're an East Side boy, I'm a West Side boy, we got to kill each other.
Oh, that was still going on when we were kids. I still remember that stuff going on.
No. I'm making a point here.
I know.
Right? And then other people started moving out, and then like, there's black people here. Oh, suddenly the East Side boys, the West Side boys, they're all singing "Kumbaya" because there's this other it's black against white now. Who cares about sides? We have this other person, kind of thing. I'm just pointing out how people will find a way to divide themselves. Mm-hmm. Before people had a reason to be racist, they were racist against their own people. I'm being very, whatever.
No, I get what you're saying. I'm saying the whole East Side, West Side, North Side, South Side stuff was thriving again in the 90s when I was a kid. There were even songs talking about it.
Yeah, I mean that was if you're talking about like the rap culture stuff, that's a bit of a quagmire that I honestly am not very well versed in.
Not just rap.
Kind of embarrass myself if I try to get in on it.
Not just rap. In fact, Moby had a song called Southside that actually talked to him about that.
I grew up in a suburb, so I don't really have much contact for city life. So
I didn't grow up in a huge city, but I definitely grew up in more of a ghetto when I was in the city, and when I was in the rural areas.
But what kind of white? But Hardcore Bunny, what kind of white are you? I'm sorry. If nothing else, the movie Civil War, it gave us that meme, and for that I am thankful.
See, this is the thing: is there's so many different cultures and so many different ideals and philosophies and religions and gods and everything in every racial group. There's so much intermingling. There's so much intermixing of the races and the cultures of everything else. It's not that simple. That's why I laugh at people when they try to judge people so quickly on such petty stuff.
Okay, I'm gonna be very spicy here. I'm so racist. I think Dale Earnhardt isn't the best driver ever. Now all of the South hates me.
That was just corny. That was just corny. Come on, you can antagonize better than that. Come on.
I try to maintain a certain level of spiciness. I don't try not to go too far.
I don't do microaggressions. I only do macroaggressions.
What's the difference?
Micro is tiny, macro is massive.
We're not talking about your husband's thing here.
No, the whole thing about supposedly.
I love how I said that, and I didn't specify which was which.
I can specify. Anyway, no, the whole thing they always try to claim about microaggressions and shit like this. Well, okay, there is a racist. There's a racist component to where it started, because the reason why some of these code speaks did start was actually based on the whole forced to serve, you can't turn people away from your business, stuff like that. So those who were bigoted would just find other ways to be disrespectful without getting themselves in legal trouble. So there is some history that's actually accurate to the whole microaggression culture. It's blown out of proportion, and a lot of people assume it's there every time anyone says anything, but there is a legitimacy to the history of it. Mm-hmm. But this is the people who think everything's code speak, and you're trying to go after.
Oh, it's coded. This character is queer coded. Oh my freaking god, I hate that.
Yes. So screw their coding. I'm way too autistic for this shit. I don't hide my opinions. If I'm going to say something rude to you, it's going to be hyper rude. It's going to be in your face, and you're going to be choking on it. Macroaggressions, not micro.
Here's the only coding that I care about. Up, down, left, right, BA, select, start. That is the only coding that I care about.
You realize my brain can't follow that when you do
that. People in the chat know what I just did. I just got us 30 extra lives. So
no, I know I should know it, but my brain can't follow when people say directions like that quickly. My brain can't follow it to try to see what they're doing.
Up, down, down, left, right.
I have to see it.
BA, select, start.
I have to see it. It's just the way my brain works. So I don't get that. It's not.
I'm sorry. I don't have an NES controller around here to demonstrate. It's the Konami code.
Okay, because literally, I hate trying to remember
So
things. when
Dave
I'm
is
not,
Irish. We have confirmed that Dave is Irish.
I'm not writing or typing or using controllers. I cannot remember the things that I do on them. And if I try to see it or describe it in my head, it doesn't work.
Well, the Konami code is like literally the world's most famous like video
No,
game.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're not getting it. I cannot visualize things unless I have something to actually test it on as I'm doing it. I cannot. My brain's not able to.
All right.
It's not a question of not knowing the things.
Also, what kind of Irish are you? I am the Irish who has never stepped foot in Ireland, but I claim I'm Irish even though I have like 0.5% Irish blood in me. I'm so racist. When I turn into a Power Rancher, nope. We are not going there.
Oh, and by the way, you could sit there and say that little Irish. You do realize the main backgrounds in me are Lakota and Irish. That means,
bloody Irish, they lured Ireland.
I work in the potato fields and then I scout myself. I mean,
she said it, not me. Oh god. Oh.
Okay, my sister's ex, brother to me, I've known him since I was like 7 or 8. And we kept him. We like him. They just didn't work out. My sister's ex-military, he's a rancher, he's a cowboy, he's also native.
Is he a monster rancher?
No. There's a reason I'm saying this. He's also native. He makes jokes about loving being the cowboy Indian kid as a child because he could play cowboys and Indians by himself. It's just hard to scout myself. Except for a lot more swear words and a lot more vulgar. But
so Irish, you can't get hired in New York. Oh god.
How's this? I'm a quagmire. I am a native Irish woman who's never drank.
How's this for a quagmire? I am of Irish descent and I've never had a drop of alcohol in my life.
Neither. Not a drop.
See, that's
I'm
the
native
thing. You're
and
Irish and you don't drink?
Well, remember, you do remember what a 7-course meal on the reservation is, right?
Whiskey, scotch.
No. 6-pack and a puppy.
What?
6-pack and a puppy.
Is that so you can pet the puppy while you drink the alcohol?
No. There's
so the puppy can sit by your side while you drink the alcohol by the fire?
No, there actually is a history of having to eat the dogs to survive because of the starvation.
All right, okay, we got this one. When an Irish man on welfare wanted to buy a TV, he went into a TV store and tried to buy one on a plan, but couldn't because he and his wife and all but his youngest sons were on welfare. Oh, I don't get it. Irish and Native American ancestry balances out the alcohol tolerance.
Well, again, there is a reason why natives have trouble holding liquor, and has to do with the fact that it was not in our actual natural diet until you guys came over a few hundred years ago.
We also gave you some. Well, the thing is, neither was smallpox, but we definitely gave you blankets full of them.
Yeah, that, I hear the right claim all the time that wasn't done. It's like, actually, I have the books of the official letters of Congress that were written in the early days from 1776 to 91. And there are congressional letters where they're calling out other members of Congress for intentionally sending smallpox blankets to
it happened. Which, by the way, that was one of the earliest instances of germ warfare.
Yeah. Biological warfare.
Biological chemical warfare. That was one of the earliest instances of it.
I'm telling you, they were still, if they're not still using IHS to experiment on natives, they were when I was a child.
And then, okay, so let's get in that. So he went to another store and said, I have a job, and me and my wife and my sons, except the youngest works. So when he got home and told his family, we're getting a TV tomorrow. But tomorrow, the youngest has to answer the door because the only one who said who I said didn't have a job. It's strange though. Why was Native American some of the only cultures that didn't invent alcohol? That is actually a very interesting question because if you look at like all cultures throughout history, there's always some alcoholic traditions. Like ancient Egyptians had alcohol.
Yeah. And some South American tribes had alcohol, but none of the North American tribes, none of the ones on this continent ever did. And so it wasn't in our construct. It wasn't in our understanding.
Why do you think they never invented because fermentation is really easy to do?
I think it's just because we worked the land and we worked water and other stuff in a different way than other cultures did. I don't think it was anything that was really greatly unique to us other than just the landscape, the things that were available to us, and the ways that we found the easiest to process.
Do you think it was the nomadic lifestyle? Because fermentation requires you kind of stay in one place for some time.
That would explain my tribe. It wouldn't explain all tribes because there were many agrarian tribes that did stay in place.
And all it takes is one tribe to stay in place and invent alcohol. Then through trading, the rest of the tribes would have it.
Yeah, for some reason it wasn't developed. Now I understand why we didn't have dairy before white man came over. Because the only animals that we really had over here that could easily be used to produce dairy are freaking bighorn sheep, mountain goats, and bison. You want to milk those guys? No. So dairy wasn't going to happen here. It just wasn't.
But also another thing, talking about reverse importation. Did you know that tomatoes are actually a North American thing? So before they came to the settlers discovered the New World, tomatoes didn't exist in Europe. So they actually brought back tomatoes from North America to Europe.
And they called them a poison fruit and didn't trust them.
Really?
In multiple parts of Europe.
And here's another thing, like Dave says, like some tribes really like smoking things, so maybe they didn't. So yeah, like that's another kind of stereotype with Native Americans, like the peace pipe or whatever, like.
But the tribes that actually use things like marijuana and drugs and stuff in the pipes, and the tribes that actually were heavy in tobacco use, were southern edge of North America and South America mostly. The peace pipes that my tribe had were literally just sweet grass and sage, small amounts of sweet sage. It was benign shit. So it's like, it really depends on the tribe. It's so complex. But I think it really is just the landscape and the animals and stuff that were available that led to the lack of alcohol and dairy. It just was how we developed.
Yeah, having access to stuff really does like help or hurt certain things.
That's why I love studying mythology. That's why I love studying cultures. That's why I love studying what people worshipped, how they fantasized.
Mythology is a really good way to understand. Well, the thing is, mythology is a great way to understand the past because you got to realize before the written word was invented, there was the oral tradition.
Which is what I was getting at there. That was the last half of my sentence.
Sorry. I stole your thunder.
Because it really is the only way to truly understand not just the past, but the human psyche, how our brains, our imaginations, our beliefs, our structures are influenced by the things around us in nature and in our survival. Every culture's religions and cultures and everything they believe is influenced by the things that they're around that they've had.
And this still happens to this very day.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the 2000s, or actually like the 1950s. You notice how in the 1950s we had a lot of movies about, alien invasion. There's a monster. A foreign threat is attacking us. And we as a single unanimous people have to unite to defeat it. Communism, the Soviet threat. Take the 2000s. You want to know why we had so many zombie flicks in the 2000s? It is the threat among us. The sleeper cells, the Arabic sleeper cells. There was a legit fear of like, those Arabic neighbors next door, that could be a terrorist sleeper cell. There was a, like the enemy within. The corrupting influence from outside forces coming in and corrupting your nation and stuff. Like zombies are a post 9/11 fear made manifest.
Well, they were around before that, but it did definitely get in spite by that.
I mean, if you look at the zombie films of the 2000s, they have a 9/11 spin.
Yeah. I was also going to say that that's not exactly necessarily untrue, considering the fact that one of me and my mom's friends happened to be the rabbi that was killed in San Bernardino years ago.
San Bernardino?
There was a terrorist attack from a immigrant couple against a business there years ago, where they killed a bunch of their coworkers because basically the rabbi dared share his culture with them. And he was a friend of me and my mom's. I'm still friends with his wife, his widow.
So what do you think about what Dave is saying about like how there's a lot of similarity between Native American tribes and traditional European pagan cultures, like the symbols?
I mean, if you go back to the roots of the word pagan, it was a very specific culture. It was adapted much later to be universalized to nature tribes. And while some people are okay with that, there's a lot of us who don't like it being labeled to natives. But I do get the similarities. My mom sees the similarities with the Celtic and the native. But
is there any substance to the land bridge theory?
There are some tribes that came from there, but not most. Just like there's some tribes that have African roots. So there's some tribes that have European roots, but there's also a lot of them that they have no idea how and when they got here or if they came from this land.
Because I think it has been proven that like even Native Americans aren't necessarily native to this to North America.
Some tribes. There's a lot of tribes they can't disprove that they've been here longer than that. They're trying. They actively are trying with every single one of them, which is partly why a lot of the tribes won't let them do genetic studies on us for DNA testing, because we know they're trying to come up with a reason why we're not native here. You know? But no, there's a lot of tribes they don't have any evidence of that from. It's like, okay, yes, land bridge was a thing for some tribes. Several of the tribes in Alaska came from the land bridge. A lot of the tribes down in the Hawaiian Islands came from offshoots from the islands around Japan.
Yeah, like the Polynesian stuff. We know that like
they
have a very seafaring tradition. You know, the boats and whatnot. That's pretty well explained.
Here's one for you, which I find fascinating, because there was a group of women in the Cherokee tribe who went privately to a group to have their DNA studied to find out who their families were. Not as a study against the tribe, but we want to know if we have ties to other families outside of the tribe. This was a group of, I can't remember if it was 50 or 100 women from completely different families that went together to do this. All of them came back between 50 to 75% Hebraic.
What's that mean?
They were Jewish.
Huh.
So there is possibly some history and some accuracy to belief that there are some tribes here that came from the old Israeli tribes.
So, Dave, where are these redheaded Sasquatch people? I want to meet their women. sorry, the joke had to be told.
I don't know anything about red-haired Sasquatch people. I do know that the demon that guards the gates of hell in the Badlands is supposed to be a monster form of Sasquatch. It's supposed to be, Tall Man is supposed to basically be like a 20-some foot version of Bigfoot that tempts kids into killing people or themselves and tries to destroy the tribes.
Well, here's the thing. When regards to Bigfoot, the fact that like there's Bigfoot and then there's a Yeti, and we know that there were other offshoots of humanity that didn't make it. It wasn't just Neanderthals and Cro-Magnons. There was actually a bunch of different offshoots.
I have something to show you when we're not on air. Some photos I took that I would love to explain. And they're not of a creature. They're footprints that I found in a hard-to-reach place in the Badlands.
Yeah, like, are there places in the U.S. where, I don't know, because like in the Northeast, there's a lot of, actually, this is a good question for you.
Yes, Mormons do. Some tribes do. My mom says she thinks it's one of the only things the Mormons get right. I mean,
that's saying a lot.
She's not a big fan of most of their beliefs, but she does actually give credit to that one because there is some substantial, but that's not all Native tribes. The problem is they take this to extreme. We know that Blackfoot, Blackfeet tribes have African roots. They even have things in their mythology that talk about coming from that region and talk about the darker skin when they were greeted.
Because, like, yeah, we know, like, a lot of Polynesian people got on the rickety boats and sailed across oceans to places. We know that happened. I've watched Moana. Okay, that was a bit of a joke, but like
That was a bit of a joke, but that is the only time I ever feel like that Disney actually did something decent involving native culture was that movie.
But what's to say that on the other ocean, like we're talking like that's Atlantic stuff here, Pacific stuff here.
Mhm.
What about on the Atlantic stuff, where a bunch of like African tribes got onto their boats because like the Vikings did it as early as the year 1000. You know, with their long ships. You know, what's to say that like Africans built boats and like we know that like for example the Caribbean they're like they were the whole native population there when Christopher Columbus came.
That's a whole other tirade that gets me in a lot of fights with people on the right. The idolization of Columbus.
I at this point I don't get into it.
Because, well, again, it's not just that. It's that every Columbus Day, it's a whole bunch of anti-native comments from people trying to basically idolize him and making fun of natives for not idolizing a man who basically mass murdered a bunch of tribes.
The problem is it's a reaction to a reaction, okay? Because you see a lot of people on the left being like, oh, this is Indigenous Peoples Day.
No. First of all, the first place that ever changed that to a day for natives instead of Columbus was a Republican vote group that did it in South Dakota. It is not a left-wing movement.
But a lot of left-wing people celebrated it as such.
Because they were manipulated. But that doesn't make it untrue. Would you want Jewish people to celebrate a day for a certain chancellor? That's the same thing. Because he mass murdered them and enslaved them.
I get it, but it's still a reaction to a reaction. Because
it doesn't. It wasn't a reaction before.
Your normal everyday person. When they see Columbus, like, oh, he discovered America. That's where their knowledge begins and ends.
He didn't discover shit. He got lost and landed on a place that people already were at.
I'm not debating that.
The whole Eurocentric thing of claiming that things are discovered that people already knew about pisses me off. I'm sorry.
Rose, did I not just say 10 minutes ago that the Vikings discovered America?
They didn't do it either.
Years? But
that's still Eurocentric history, claiming that Europe had to discover it for it to actually be discovered by people.
I never said whether I believed it or not. I'm just saying what the common view is. I'm not saying what my view is. The common view held by a lot of Americans, most normal average Americans who aren't engaged in this crap, they're like, their knowledge of Columbus begins and ends with, he discovered America. That's where it begins, that's where it ends. I'm not saying
that's what I'm saying is the problem. And this is where I get into it with both sides, because we're taught so much of these divisive, untrue statements that push one group against another. And when I try to tell people actual facts against both sides, depending on the situation, it's, oh, you just don't understand. It's like, no, it's because I actually see the logic of this. He can't discover
the War with the Aztecs. That was the Spanish conquistadors. That wasn't even him.
Yeah.
And he landed in the Bahamas originally, didn't he?
You got to remember, the whole reason that we were called Indian is the same reason why they originally called people in India Indian. The word never originated in either place. It was supposedly a compliment and then was used to insult later. The word's origins actually mean children of God. It was not an insult. But it became an insult when they could enslave people and make money off them.
I think Dave pretty much sums up what I was trying to say here. It's a reaction because modern left-wing people use Columbus to justify bigotry and rhetoric against white people. That said, just because your enemies embrace ignorance doesn't mean you should too. Thank you, Dave. This
is what I was trying to explain and why I was trying to finish what I was trying to say at the beginning of this. He didn't discover it. He was not a man to prop up. It was not a reaction. There was no anger in changing this when it was done. It was done to correct history because the lies about his heroic status are not historically accurate. It was not an angry thing. It was not a reactionary thing. It was correcting the fact on a single person. It was not attacking the race.
The problem is, like everything else in life, everything else in history, it doesn't matter the facts. It's how you present the facts, okay? And the problem is, the facts, as in I'm not disputing what you're saying, okay? The facts were presented in a way to demonize white people, and that's why people have the reaction. It was presented
that was not done until much longer after the first.
This is a recent thing. This is a development of the last 10 years.
Please listen, because I actually grew up in the place where all this was done, and it happened when I was a child. Mm-hmm. The whole movement for Native American Day, the whole movement to try to debunk the lies about what he did that are glorified in history books, was not reactionary. It was not anti-white. It was not left-wing. And it did not remain with the left wing for a long time after that. In fact, they belittled us for it for a long time. The reaction and the movement to the left doing it is because of this shift halfway through that early time where suddenly the outliers of the right started. Listen.
We're not talking about that.
No. That it became a thing when the outliers of the right started attacking the fact that we changed the day, even though it was their party that did it. That's when we started getting angry. That's when both sides started getting angry. It was not a left-wing thing, and it was not reactionary or angry until after we got attacked racially for it. That is the facts on that.
And then the problem is that's where we are right now, is it has become a culture war topic, and now that it's been entrenched as that, there are dividing lines. It's a lot harder to change it.
Hardcore, anybody who claims that about him is a lying asshole. He has no Mexican roots whatsoever. And he was not genocidal at all. In fact, he was behind several movements to free women and children of groups that were fighting against them. And I'm not saying that because I'm related to the man. Because there's plenty of people in my family that I will say were historical monsters. Billy the Kid for one of them. Anyway, that's not accurate. That's a flat out lie. Whether or not you like what he did or not, we have to be honest about people.
I do think Hardcore Bunny has kind of a point here, because anybody from the past, if you try and look at them through a modern lens, is a monster or whatever. Yeah, Dave, I agree with you.
This is what pisses me off.
Facts don't matter. It's how the rhetoric is used.
That's why I'm calling it out here, because it was not. I love you to pieces, but it was not a reaction from us. We were not the ones who made this a racial thing when we did this. It was a very plain and cut. Let's teach the exact facts of what he did, good and bad, and let's make this a day to celebrate the people who greeted him.
I don't doubt what you say and how it started. Okay, I'm not doubting that. I'm just saying what it has become.
And that is what the movement to make Native American Day, or now Indigenous Day, started as. It was passed by Republicans. And it was not racially driven.
It, so I can't debate you on it. Like, I have no facts to prove or disprove it, so I can't debate you on it. So
this is where I get so irritated. The right has every opportunity to win the tribes over. Our ideals are more tied to the right than any other subsect of people.
I mean, to be fair, that's part of a larger failure. I don't want to go into politics, but I have to say this. It's part of a larger failure of the right, where it's like the right is very good at snatching victory from the snatching failure, like whatever the phrase is. You know what I'm trying to say.
They're very good at blaming us for whiny left white people whining for us as well. They're very good at saying that, oh, the tribes are this and this and this because this whiny leftist is saying it. And it's like, we don't like those people. We are the most pro-life, most pro-gun, most pro-constitution, highest military service
You would
rate.
think, given the
True.
Native American history, they would be very pro-gun.
Oh, we are.
Like you, like
That's the thing.
honestly, here's the thing. Like I know that like Americans did a lot of the stuff, but like given the history, there's a lot of like, okay, even though we were the ones fighting you, we understand why you like guns.
I'm done with hardcore. That's just a flat out fucking racist lie about tribes.
All right, can we just get off this topic, please?
I'm talking respectfully about the culture and the differences in this because it's part of the hero thing. I'm getting really sick and tired of the racist stereotypes of my culture being thrown around there.
All right. We're gonna like move on.
No, I'm fine. I'm just done talking to him. Ever. And I do mean that. Fuck you, racist.
Okay. I think we're gonna.
This is why it's never going to work to try to win these people over.
Okay, I think I'm gonna end the show here. We've gotten a little bit too much.
See the last two comments? He is racist.
So thank you everyone for joining. I really appreciate you being
Calling
here.
people dictators and saying the tribes aren't actual cultures
Eagle,
is not
Eagle,
speaking facts. It's racist.
Eagle, we're ending here. I'm trying to like thank you everybody for joining us. You have a good one. Take care.